China is an amazing country where rich traditions and unique customs and beliefs thrive. China is the birthplace of the world's oldest living civilization, a civilization that dates back some 3,700 years. Throughout its history, China has undergone periods of growth and periods of loss, periods of strength and periods of weakness, but it has always survived. For most of that time, China has been the most populated country on earth, and today, its booming economy has made it a leader among the industrialized nations of the world. China, which today is called the People's Republic of China, is a huge country with a communist government that covers about 1/5 of the continent of Asia. Today, at the start of a new millennium, China is home to 1,300,000,000 people, roughly 1/5 of the world's population. China is bordered by 14 different nations. To its north is Mongolia, and then moving westward are the Muslim countries of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. From there, China borders India, and after that, the small Hindu and Buddhist kingdom of Nepal, and then tiny Bhutan. After that, China's border meets India again, until it reaches Myanmar, Laos, and Vietnam. China's coastline runs along the China Sea and the Yellow Sea, which are parts of the Pacific Ocean. Off the coast, the nation of Taiwan, or Nationalist China, was governed from the mainland capital of Beijing before the Communists took over in 1949, and it is still claimed by the People's Republic today. In the northeast are the last of China's neighbors. One is the small communist nation of North Korea, and the other is the enormous nation of Russia. China has several important rivers that are used for transportation. The two main rivers are the Yellow River and the Yangtze River. Huge parts of China are very dry and quite thinly populated, such as the region near the vast Gobi Desert and the high, very cold Tibetan Plateau that runs along the towering peaks of the Himalayan mountains that are the highest mountains on Earth. Most of China's citizens live in the eastern third of the country, where the best land for farming is found. Almost all of the most well-to-do Chinese live in huge cities such as Beijing, Hong Kong, and Shanghai. But the majority of Chinese are less prosperous farmers, like those seen here, that live in rural areas. Nearly everyone in China writes and reads the official language called Mandarin, but the Chinese speak many different dialects. That is why people from different regions of the country often have difficulty understanding one another. The unique civilization of China has been strongly influenced by 3 traditional religions, those of Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism, that are sometimes referred to as the 3 ways. The roots of these religions date back thousands of years, and each one has played its own special role in shaping personal behavior, family life, government, art, and even scientific thought in China. Until the onset of communism in the 20th century, people were rarely persecuted for their religions. Overall, China has had such a history of religious tolerance that traditional religious beliefs have blended together to such a degree that elements from one religion are quite likely to be found in another. Confucianism, the first of the traditional Chinese religions, is based on the teachings of a philosopher named Confucius, who formulated his ideas around 500 BC. Confucius developed detailed rules for personal behavior that promoted mutual respect, generosity, honor, strong family bonds, a deep sense of personal duty to society, and even the worship of one's ancestors. Confucius believed that a superior ruler, father, husband, or older brother was naturally worthy of respect and obedience. Confucius predicted that trouble would result whenever a bad example was set. In many ways, Confucianism turned out to be much more of a system of rules for proper behavior and for good government than an actual religion. Nevertheless, the vision and ideals of Confucianism ended up uniting China, and it provided the Chinese people with a strong foundation for a stable, long-lasting society. Taoism is the second religion that played a major role in shaping Chinese thought and culture. It is a religion that offered a more relaxed and natural way of finding happiness compared to the numerous rules of Confucianism. Taoism dates back to 300 BC, but certain parts of the religion are much older. Taoism is largely based on the Book of Tao, or Tao Te Ching, that may have been written by a religious visionary named Lao Tzu. Taoists believe that everything in the universe arises from the Tao, a silent, pure, all-powerful force that existed before there was a heaven or an earth. The early Taoists thought that the best way to find true peace and happiness was to gain first-hand experience of the Tao by living in harmony with nature, leading simple lives, and by not acting in anger. When it began, simplicity was an important aspect of Taoism. But as time went by, Taoist temples filled up with ornate shrines, brilliantly colored statues, and bowls brimming over with offerings. This happened in part because over the centuries, Taoists adopted many ancient Chinese folk gods and began to worship them. Today, Taoist priests conduct public rituals during which they offer up prayers to the ancient gods or to other divinities that represent different qualities of the Tao. Taoists also believe that it is possible for humans to attain immortality, that is, to live forever, and that is why they worship a special group of gods whom they believe once lived on earth as human beings. Buddhism is the third and most recent religion to play an important role in shaping Chinese culture, and Buddhist temples and religious images abound in China. Buddhism began in India and is a religion based on the teachings of a man known as the Buddha, or Enlightened One. The Buddha taught the value of compassion, or loving kindness, as a way to overcome the striving and desire that cause human suffering. Around the year 650 AD, a religious pilgrim returned to China from India and brought the Buddhist scriptures with him. This towering temple, or pagoda, was built to house those precious books. In China, pagodas can take many different forms. Most pagodas were built in the centers of Buddhist monasteries. Monasteries are sacred places filled with temples and other buildings that are home to monks and nuns who devote their lives to religious practice. Lamas, the Buddhist monks who live in the mountainous Tibetan region of China, as well as in Mongolia, Bhutan, and Nepal, often construct distinctive pagodas like this one, called stupas. Stupas are filled with sacred offerings, holy relics, and shrines. They are often adorned with strings of rippling prayer flags that are believed to transmit prayers on the winds. And at the foot of some stupas, prayer wheels can be turned to send out prayers as well. The lamas of the Tibetan region of China follow a style of Buddhism known as Vajrayana Buddhism. The supreme spiritual leader of the Vajrayana Buddhists is known as the Dalai Lama. Although this Tibetan style of Buddhism was at first violently suppressed by the communists in an attempt to overthrow the religious government of Tibet, Lamas are still deeply revered in that region, both for their religious activities and for their fascinating sacred dances and music as well. In China, one of the most popular figures from the Buddhist tradition is Milo Fo, the so-called Laughing Buddha, whose image is encountered everywhere. Milo Fo is very much beloved because he embodies several important Chinese ideals. For example, his fat belly symbolizes wealth. His smile and relaxed manner shows that his life is harmonious. And the tiny figures that are crawling all over him depict his deep love for children, which is one of the most basic Chinese ideals. In addition to religion, several ancient beliefs have been extremely important in shaping Chinese culture as well. In fact, each of China's traditional religions have themselves been deeply influenced by these ancient beliefs. Undoubtedly, one of the most basic and widespread of them is the concept of yin and yang. In the symbol of the Taoist religion seen here, the mystical Tao is represented as consisting of two balanced but opposing energies. One is called yang, and the other is called yin. Yin is the energy associated with femininity, the earth, the night, the moon, and softness. While in contrast, yang is the energy associated with masculinity, heaven, the daytime, the sun, and strength. Each morning in the parks and public places of China, older people are always seen practicing Tai Chi, an ancient art that seeks to balance yin and yang energies while building strength and agility. And the approach of balancing energy is employed in traditional Chinese medicine as well. The ancient Chinese art of feng shui is also founded on the concepts of yin and yang. In China, feng shui experts have long been consulted for help in selecting a harmonious location for a new house or temple. Feng shui principles are used for planning the layouts of rooms and for deciding on how furniture can be placed to obtain the best energy flow. For it is believed that when the feng shui of a house is correct, meaning that the forces of yin and yang are properly balanced, the people who live in it will be happy, healthy, and prosperous. Another fascinating aspect of ancient Chinese thinking is found in the groupings of lines arranged along the outside of the yin-yang symbol. They are called the 8 trigrams and represent different qualities of the yin and yang energies. A broken line in a trigram stands for yin, and one that is unbroken represents yang. The 3 unbroken lines of this trigram represent a completely yang quality, and so the trigram symbolizes strength, creativity, heaven, and father. In ancient times, people began to pair the trigrams with one another to create 6-line hexagrams. People drew straws or tossed coins to represent the yin and yang lines of the hexagrams. Thus, the hexagrams could be determined purely by chance. And somehow, over time, the hexagrams came to be seen as possessing a deep spiritual meaning and power of their own. Thousands of years ago, a mystical book called the I Ching, or Book of Changes, was compiled. It sought to explain the hidden meaning of every line in each one of the 64 possible hexagrams. And today, that ancient and mysterious book is still consulted by millions of Chinese people searching for spiritual advice and guidance. True or false, the People's Republic of China is a communist country. True or false, Mandarin is the official language of China, but many dialects are spoken. True or false, Confucius developed a system of rules for proper behavior. True or false? Buddhism began in China. True or false? Feng Shui was the first emperor of China.